A big aloha and mahalo, Dave Lawrence. And today on the show, what a thrill we have. A guy who's been with us now, it's three times. He's Saturday and Sunday, April 20th and 21st over at the Blue Note. Two shows a night, 6:30 and 9. Tickets are on sale now. Making this remarkable in a couple of ways. One, that he's calling it his final world tour. But the most remarkable thing is the cat himself, a guitar player who is just so welcomed around the world for his talent, his smooth style, his innovation. It's Larry Carlton. Welcome back, my brother. Great to have you on the show and hear your voice.
Thanks, Dave. Good to be here, buddy.
And I see, just to be clear, because I could be entirely wrong about this, August in Virginia, at least when I go to the website, that's what is listed as the last date. Is that when the big final world tour ends, or is there more after that?
Yeah, the way it's working out, I've just cut so far back by choice. Everything's good. I probably won't be doing Europe anymore, which is obviously part of our world. It used to be a world tour was Asia, Europe, the U.S., Russia. So yeah, I'll still do 20 or 25 dates a year for a while, but I won't be going all around the world. It'll be very, very selective. I'm happy to say that my 2 dates in Hawaii coming up, and I'll go directly from there to Japan and do 14 days. And then that's it. I'll have 6 weeks off, and then a couple of days here and there, but no more all around the world.
Will Hawaii still count as a place you'll go in the future?
Well, for a couple of reasons, yes, because I love coming to Hawaii and the audience, and it's a beautiful venue. So sure, I can see myself coming back.
There you go.
When appropriate. Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's not like well, I guess Detroit will still. I was going to say Detroit because when you're here, places like that don't seem quite as alluring as this. But I guess you'll still be making some mainland appearances.
I will. I'll go directly from Japan to Boston and do 2 nights.
Okay.
And then, like I say, I won't have any more gigs for at least 6 weeks.
But
it's all good.
But so what we're saying with the Virginia that I mentioned in August, not the last date. That would be the answer of that. There will be more stuff for sure after that.
Probably so. I really haven't looked at my calendar to see what my manager has put together for this year, but it's light compared to years past. That's the point.
You mentioned something interesting, Russia. You mentioned, and I have another buddy, and he does. He's not a musician per se, but he's the tour manager for some rock band called Hailstorm. It's a pretty big modern rock band, and I know that their life has changed because they used to play there all the time, a couple different cities, I guess. And you mentioned Russia, and so since things have changed in Europe with that conflict, did that? I'm assuming you'll tell the story. How did that affect your touring and going to those places?
It really has not, because I've been so choosy, especially starting over the last 5 or 6 years, that if any offers have come in for Russia, it's very possible that we just turned them down.
Got it.
Because I didn't want to make the travel.
Got it. No, well, there you go. And the travel itself is really the... Now, have you ever seen an artist who... So many artists have done farewell tours, final tours, goodbyes. They call them all kinds of stuff. And you've explained yours well. Yours is sort of limited because you're still going to do shows. You just mean final world tour, emphasis on world. But have you ever yourself, in your long life, as a fan, gone to see anybody who was doing a final or farewell tour, ever?
I have not.
That's interesting. That's great stuff. I love it.
Yeah.
And no, you got to be honest, and that's cool. And as for what and you don't, because you're the guy. People are coming to see you, and that's what it's about. What you're doing on stage on this, does it change at all because of the nature of the tour? Or I'm guessing not, because it's really a logistical thing in terms of you don't want to go to far-reaching places. But give a little well-deserved plug for what people can expect at the Blue Note for these 2 nights of shows.
Yeah, and I'm happy to say I'm bringing a 6-piece band. That's rhythm section plus tenor sax and trombone. And we play familiar tunes that the audience expects to hear. And then we honor my time with the Crusaders, and that's why we have the tenor sax and trombone, so we can get that sound. And then we honor my time with Steely Dan. And I placed a couple of I actually went back, Dave, a couple of years ago and learned solos that have become famous by me with Steely Dan.
Nice.
So I play them note for note, so the audience goes, "Yep, that sounds just like the guy."
Ah, man, that's so cool. Yeah, like
And then
Kid Charlemagne is one I know.
exactly. And then the added thing for this tour is I've added a couple of foreplay tunes
Oh, cool.
that I know the audience, as soon as we start them, they're going to go, "I love that song." So in my 12 years with foreplay, I'm honoring that also.
And is that more of a, when you think of the 2 nights and total of 4 shows, do you plan things with a set list, or do it more Grateful Dead Fish style, or kind of like how Jerry kind of did it? Jerry would, when he would do his solo tours, he would kind of have a set list but improvise a bit. Dead was everywhere and all over, and the same with Fish. How do you work out the playlist?
Yeah, I think what's happened over the years is we have the bulk of the show, and that's with the audience in mind, with tunes like I just mentioned.
Sure.
But there's oftentimes, right before we go up, I'll say, "Guys, let's start with such and such." And it's not even on the set list. And that kind of sends us off in a new direction. So the show doesn't get old, you know?
No, I'm sure. I mean, and that's a cool thing. And you can do it in multiple ways. It doesn't have to be. I mean, Led Zeppelin used to do a lot of improvisation within the songs and keep the exact same set list, but yet it was an entirely different journey night to night. So I'm sure your own approach.
Yeah, we do that.
Yeah,
Yes, we do.
That's what I would expect. And so when I was thinking of talking to you on this final sort of motif, but now I'm realizing you'll probably thankfully be coming back, but I was thinking about trying to celebrate the highlights, thinking all the way back. And the thing that kind of, I don't know if we ever talked about it in the decade or so we've gotten to chat, but how a 6-year-old, like I see, I'm 53, so sometimes I'll see a little kid, and sometimes you'll know their age. You maybe know the person and you'll know how old their child is or whatever. But the point would be a 6-year-old little boy picking up the guitar and starting to play at that young age. That kind of thing just doesn't tell the story of how precisely that was enabled.
Well, of course, the story has been related to me through my parents and through my grandparents. But yeah, at about 6.5 years old, there was an acoustic guitar at my grandmother's house. And they said I just became fascinated with it. And my mom could play 3 or 4 chords on the guitar. She played a little bit as a teenager in southeastern Oklahoma. So they said I just became fascinated with it. So they said, they told me, when you're big enough to hold the guitar physically, you can take lessons. So at about 6.5, I could hold this old acoustic guitar with no name on it, and I started lessons. And I never quit.
And so so if that's the case, by about 10, 11, how soon looking back, you have a better appraisal? Because I can understand how some stories need to be relayed to us because we just can't remember. It's way too early in our lives. But as you get to, like, let's say 12, 13, when was it, when you look back, that you feel like you started to really have a grasp of it that puts you in a different place than most kids of that age who don't have a skill of any kind?
Right. I would be speculating, but with some degree of accuracy, maybe at around 10 or 11, it was obvious, I think, to myself and to everybody that I had this aptitude. And I could hear a song on the radio and go start figuring it out. And that was at 10 or 11 years old. By the time I was in junior high school, I was already analyzing chords in my brain. I was so into it. I became a nerd for music.
And that time period, an interesting one, so many things one could be inspired by. So thinking of some of those very, very first inspirations, because again, we know about the Crusaders in so many ways that you plugged in with sessions and with artists that are important to people. But when it came to you and shaping yourself, even if it wasn't something you stuck with, what was the first musical performance you went to yourself that was like a noteworthy artist of any kind?
Oh, I think I was in college, maybe first year of junior college, and somehow my name came up on a list, and I toured that summer with the Fifth Dimension when they had Up, Up, and Away as a hit. So I would have been 19 or 20 years old when the major act that I actually went out and played with.
Okay, no, that's cool, and that's like a bonus because I was more meaning as a fan. What was the inspiration like? The first show, like I saw Judas Priest was the first band I saw as a little boy. What was the first thing that you saw that you bought tickets to or wanted to see, or parents somebody
Sure.
took you to, that kind of thing?
Yeah, when I was about 14 years old, in Southern California, there was a well-known jazz club called the Lighthouse.
Oh yeah,
And on Sunday afternoons, they served food so kids could get in on Sundays. And my mom would drive me to the Lighthouse and drop me off in Hermosa Beach. And I watched Chico Hamilton Band
wow.
with Charles Lloyd and Gabor Szabo and Albert Stenson. And then
Okay,
she'd come back an hour and a half later and pick me up.
and you were picking the jazz yourself, like, hey, I want to go to this thing.
Well, somehow it just all appealed to me. My records in my bedroom as a teenager were all jazz records.
Incredible.
Even though I was playing pop music
Right, right.
with buddies, you know.
And at that age, which is I'm just trying to get to understand how it happened at that age that you would go in that direction, because sometimes we go like the funny thing is, and I'll just throw it in as a fun part of like the opposite end of that is your sessions took you to gigs like the Partridge Family, you know.
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
it's really and I guess since we bring it up, let's just have fun with it. Now, were you ever on their cool bus, Larry, or not?
Nope, only in the studio,
Okay.
making the basic tracks.
Did you get to meet those cats, or was it one of those you do it on your own kind of bit?
We did it as a rhythm section, and none of them were there. Well, David was there a few times. He and I became kind of buddies on the sessions.
Right. And you did some of his records too, actually.
Yeah.
So you also answered my other first, though. Back to shaping, you first major artist that you met, I guess, would have been the Fifth Dimension. Do I have that right too?
I think so. That sounds right. Yeah.
And now all these, you mentioned pop, and it's interesting because here we have all this jazz stuff that we've been talking about, but most people who are going, a lot of people who are going to come see you at the Blue Note this weekend are very familiar with you for the variety pack that comes with you. Now, I was scanning it, looking for things that might be fun for people driving in their car, and one guy that we were blessed to have on the show one time, we recorded an interview with him right at the beginning of his Alzheimer's decline, and this was Glenn Campbell, and it was in September 2012. But I was I'm so grateful to spend time on a boat with him, just sitting there, and he played guitar. It was something obviously you don't forget. But you have Bloodline 1976 on your Wikipedia. Now, is that thing accurate? Is that the first time, or did you do things with Glenn before that?
I did do Bloodline. I remember that. My buddy John Guess was the engineer on that, I remember. Prior to that, I subbed a few times on his TV show for Louis Shelton, who would do the TV backing tracks with the orchestra. So, yeah, there were times when I did Glenn's TV show, and I think there was actually one time where I was actually out on the stage with him and Larry McNeely.
Wow.
Just because I was subbing for Louis, so I played rhythm.
How cool. And was he was he hanging for the Bloodline, or are you running your parts by yourself?
No, he was there. He was there in the booth and singing rough vocals, and I was playing acoustic guitar. Mm-hmm.
What did you think of his guitar? I can, honestly, I get, as we say in Hawaii, chicken skin when I think of looking over at him playing the acoustic guitar, sitting on this boat in the Ala Yacht Harbor. When you think of yourself watching him play as a guitar legend you are, what did you think of his guitar playing?
Just great. He was a natural, as many of the well-known guys who do it so well. They're just naturals, you know. I remember I was playing in a club in a cover band, probably 1967 or 8. I would have been 18 years old, something like that, going on it. And I heard about this guy in Hollywood who could play anything in any style. And his name was Glenn Campbell. That's his reputation way back. That's the first time I heard about Glenn, was he's a guy who can play anything.
Wow. And that was exactly right how
Accurate.
yes, accurate in terms of it. So what a neat thing. And so
Yeah.
moving forward, because I can't keep you forever. Your stories are so good, though. People are probably going to have to pull over and listen. Neil Diamond, 1973. Now, I love this book. Is one of those books that kind of chokes me up a bit. And of course, Bad Company had the great song "Seagull" in the rock world. But Jonathan Livingston Seagull, you played in part of that.
I did. I think that was a what we call a film call for me. I think I got to the sound stage and it was doing the music for the movie.
And no action with Neil.
Yeah, and that's really all I remember is being called for it, and it was the full orchestra.
Man, look at the diversity, though. That's what's neat, actually. That's cool that it isn't the same story each time because you get to see it with an orchestra. So there you are with an orchestra on a big sound stage. And now different story with Off the Wall, 1979, the king of pop, a guy who, like James Brown, he could just move and it touched you. Michael Jackson. How'd you get that? I think it was Quincy, right? It hooked you up with him?
Yeah, it was Quincy, and one of the people that worked very closely with Quincy throughout that career was Tom Baylor, songwriter, background singer, arranger. And I got a call one afternoon from Tom, who was working with Quincy, and he said, "We've got this last tune to do for Michael." And he said, when we listened to it, Quincy and I looked at each other and went, "Carlton." So I went in and played on that tune for them. Michael was not there. His vocal was already finished.
Okay. You ever get to interact with him in person?
Nope.
How about when you did Jerry, 74, Compliments of Jerry Garcia? How does one end up playing on Jerry Garcia's album?
Again, the producers just handpick players they want to come in and do things. And I think, when that album came out for Jerry Garcia, I had not even remembered I did it. I think it came out many years after those tracking dates were done. Because I was surprised.
Stuff like that's funny. Well, one I know because it's a video, kind of gives you, there's record of when it happened and stuff. It was 1990, Los Angeles. What an all-star cast. This is a little stunning and hard to believe, but it's Van Morrison, Chick Corea, Herbie Hancock, and yourself.
Yeah. Again, the producer handpicked the artist with Van, I'm sure, of who should be there to present that little, whatever they were doing, film. So yeah, I've seen that on YouTube. That's fun. That was fun to go back to. I had forgotten about that also.
And that was right there with all these cats. So folks can, and you have, I'm assuming, Chick, was he a cat that you had? When I say his name, is that a guy? Did any of those guys, were they any of them close to you?
No.
None of them?
No.
Okay.
I was fortunate enough, 15 years ago or 10, I forget now. I got a call to do some shows, and it was Herbie.
Wow.
And a couple of us all-star guys along with him. So that was really fun.
Wow. Yeah, he's a nice guy. He seems super cool and real smart. Like this.
Oh, yeah.
Super
smart.
Super
cool.
Well, final question, and it's one that I'm hoping, I don't know how I've had them on so many times, excuse me, and I can't remember. I don't think we ever talked about this aspect of it, but the band America have a long connection to these islands, obviously, because in 1977, their Harbor album recorded on Kauai, and you are credited on that thing.
Really?
Wow, and you didn't even remember. Maybe you didn't come here, obviously. I'm thinking you must have done that.
No, maybe somebody called me in to do some overdub guitar parts. But it's possible I didn't even know who the artist was when I did it.
Well, things like that happen. That's interesting. Well, I'll make a note and ask them what they know about it, because I got to have Jerry on in a couple weeks, ironically. So that's a perfect topic. All right, well, then I'll switch it to the fave story with a huge legend that you still can't believe happened that we haven't mentioned today. And I mean a person that, and I give you a moment to think about it. Think about like people driving. They're not as musically, they may... names mean more to them. Somebody that maybe shocked you that you were working with, or maybe a pop encounter, maybe like how you did the Glenn show, the TV show. You got to do some real interesting behind the scenes. One that to this day is one you really are grateful for to have in your hat, your bag of tricks.
Yeah, if you go back and look at the 1974 Rumble in the Jungle, Muhammad Ali, George Foreman.
Yes.
A lot of artists, including the Crusaders,
Went to
I was
Africa.
with them. We all went to Zaire
Yep.
to put on 3 nights of concerts. And
James
that
Brown.
was really cool for a couple of reasons. Obviously, just to be there at 26 years old and to be playing with the Crusaders there. But B.B. King was headlining one night, and they asked me to play rhythm guitar in B.B.'s big band.
Whoa.
So there's actually video of B.B. doing his show in Zaire, and I'm back there playing rhythm guitar. It was just a thrill.
Unbelievable. And spontaneous kind of thing that you didn't know was going to happen till you got there? Or?
Oh, right. Probably the day before.
Right. And that was a bill that they had James Brown and lots of Manu Dibango, a lot of huge people were on those bills, right?
The Fania All-Stars, Bill Withers.
Right.
Yep.
There was a lot of cool, because I've seen some of that JB footage. Well, that's a wonderful story to wrap it with, and what a cool thing that you get to do. Something like that. It says a lot about your career. It's Larry Carlton. He's got a couple big shows for us, Saturday and Sunday, 6:30 and 9. Both nights, and he is calling it the final world tour, but he has explained to us today that we shouldn't be so worried here in the Aloha State that we'll be able to welcome him back someday. I'm hoping. Did you have fun today? Was this at all interesting?
Oh, yeah, Dave, you're always great, man. You're so casual and you're well-informed. It's just like talking to a buddy. Thank you for that.
You're welcome, and thank you. That's very sweet of you to say, and I'm really, really grateful that the final world tour is what it is, because sometimes bands do that. I remember who was else? Manhattan Transfer, same deal. They called it that, but then they explained, well, we're still going to do limited touring for the same reason. He said that, Alan said the same exact stuff. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, be safe, and I'll look for you down there at the Blue Note, and thank you again for taking the time to be part of the show. And when you're traveling, there's so many things that can come up. So please be safe. Watch your step wherever you go.
Appreciate it, Dave. Take care, my friend.
Aloha, brother.
Bye-bye.